G'day folks, this is a video to help anybody with a Powtran VFD. This one is a model PI7800 and it's got a noisy internal fan that just runs all the time. So if you want to turn that fan off, then you would think to yourself, well, I'll just jump into the manual and find the fan start temperature option, which is there, and change that to somewhere that is like 40 degrees C. Then the fan will be off, and then if it gets over 40 degrees C, then it will turn itself on. But sadly, this options actually means optional, and the 7800 doesn't have that option. So you can set this up as much as you like, but nothing actually turns the fan off, and it doesn't solve your problem. So yeah, what options are there? I've already dismantled mine. Whoops. Just to get in there a bit easier, and I'll just plug this back in so we can see what's going on. So how have I done it? I've set up a little relay, which I'll show you in the top here, and I've put some jumpers in here, and now you can see this. I've got my monitor to be showing me the internal temperature, which is currently 16.1 degrees, and when I press start, you can see that my motor's turning. I've got that on a little potentiometer here, which I'll show you how to do later. Now we're getting up to 17.5, and if I let this run long enough, we might get up to sort of 18 degrees, a little bit over, and so we're looking at 2 or 3 degrees above the ambient. This number down here is showing me the speed of the motor at the moment. So struggling to get to 18 degrees. Oh, there we go, we've got to 18 degrees. And as soon as I stop that, now the internal fan is going to stop also and stay quiet, and you can see that straight away the temperature comes right back down just from passive cooling because of the big cooling fins at the back. And so it's not going to damage the VFD at all. That cooling fan really doesn't need to be on. And I've checked this temperature against the ambient temperature, and it drops back down to ambient with no problem. There's no heat generated by the device when it's in standby state at all. So how did I do it? This thing here, the green thing here, is called the terminal, and we just got to add some wires into the terminal. So what have we got? We come out of the 24 volts positive, we jump into TA2. Now TA2 is part of a relay, and it is made of TC2, which is the common, and it's got a normally open pathway, which is TA2, and it's got a normally closed pathway, TB2. So we want to jump across here when it's running. Now this switch will close here when it's running, and it'll open when it's not running, and that's by factory default. If you really want to go and have a look at the settings, on page 11 of the manual, you will find information about that relay, and you'll find that it's called output signal 6, and it'll tell you that this one is open and this one is closed. And then on page 29, you can set what that output signal selection is going to be, and number 6 there by default is 8, which is this one, running state with command. And so that's what you want to leave it as. That's its factory default, and that just means that it's going to switch over when it's running and turn off when it's not. Okay, so the 24 has jumped in here. When it's running, it will jump across to TC2, and it'll go into your relay here. All I've got here is a double pole, double throw relay, and this is the little electromagnetic coil. So it'll charge up the coil, and you need to go back to your ground state, which is your COM port in the terminal. On your relay, we're just going to cut the, make sure you turn it off before you do it, but cut the wire between the supply for the fan and the fan itself. Put the supply for the fan on the middle 2 terminals of your relay, and then find which ones are your normally open contacts and connect those back up to the motor. So before we do this modification, this 240 volt supply, which comes from a little transformer in the box, just runs straight through to the motor, and we're going to put this relay in the way on the normally open contacts so that it turns on when the coil is made live. What does that look like in reality? So we have a little jumper lead. We're coming out the plus 24, and it's going straight into TA2. We come out of the TC2 and up to the relay. I've used these little wires here to go up to the top. I'll show you the relay in a second. It comes back out of the relay and jumps into COM. Here's the relay. The wire used to come straight here and into the motor. Now I turned my motor 90 degrees to make this modification a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about any nuts on the end of these bolts. They're just screwed straight into the tin sheet, so that's fine. So I've come out of the supply into the center. I've put heat shrink on these just to protect them when it's closed. And this is the normally open end, and I've put the 2 contacts for the motor into there. As a little side note, if you do want to display the temperature here, then press program. That will show F00, and then you need to choose 8. So program again chooses the number, and then you can choose up and down. If you choose 0, then that will show you what frequency you have chosen, and then press set to choose it. So you can see here I've got a little potentiometer, and I can change the frequency that I want to run, and that's now showing the frequency. So I like to see the temperature, so program on F00, program again to change it. Choose number 8, set, and then escape back out, so we can see that we're at 16.6 degrees. How did I do the potentiometer? I've just wired it into I2 and V1, and this is a 5K potentiometer. So if you head to the book of distractions, then in F04 you want to choose I2 as your input. Potentiometer does a lot better job of moderating current rather than voltage, so we choose I2, which is number 2, not the default 0. Over the page, and nothing will work on the terminal because at the moment the run control mode F05 doesn't have the terminal listed in its default setting 0. So you want to jump into F05 and either choose 1, which has got the terminal in it, or you can choose 3, which has also got the terminal in it. Choosing either of those will liven up that, and now you can change it via a potentiometer, which you can install nice and handy. Well, I hope that helped somebody, and I'll see you on the next one.